What's going on YouTube? This is Nubby with One Hand Tech back with another product review for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Aoyue 968A+. This is one of Aoyue's mid to high-end soldering stations, rework stations. I did an unboxing of this last week and I've been using it since then to evaluate the functionality, durability, and build quality of it. So let's dive right in. If you guys want to see everything that comes in it, check out the unboxing videos. I'm not really going to go through all that again. I will be showing you guys how to change some of the nozzles and stuff and the different functionality that comes with it, so you'll get to see some of the extra stuff that comes in the package. But go ahead and check out the unboxing video. I'll put a link in the video to the unboxing so you guys can see what all comes in it. So let's dive right in and start looking around the unit. Alright, first we're going to take a close look around the unit itself. And right here you can see the front panel. As you can see, there's two digital displays right here. This one here is for the soldering iron temperature. And this one here is for the hot air gun temperature. You got the soldering iron temperature control knob here. Your soldering iron connector here. This down here is where your smoke absorber plugs in, or the icy suction tool. This is your outlet for the hot air gun, and it has a spring for strain relief on it, which is a nice feature to have. The temperature adjustment on the soldering iron is an analog knob. It's not digital. They say it's digitally controlled, but it has to be controlled through the microprocessor that's in the unit, because potentiometers only give out an analog value, so they have to convert it to a digital value to control the temperature. But the temperature for the hot air gun seems to be digitally controlled from the get-go. You got your three power switches down here. The first one is for the soldering iron, second one is for the smoke absorber, and the third one is for the hot air gun. Here's another analog control knob to control the airspeed coming out of the hot air gun. And this is an old school floating ball thing that'll allow you to see the airflow volume that you have it set to. Now here's a close-up of the soldering iron that you get with the kit. It's a pencil type soldering iron with a little addition on the top for the smoke absorber. This kind of thin pencil type soldering iron is what you see on a lot of the low to mid-range soldering stations on the market. I find these pencil types to be very comfortable to use. They're not big and clunky, and they don't hurt your hand after using them for a long time. Now this one is a little awkward due to the fume extractor on the top. You can't really grip it like you can the rest of them. Although it is a good feature, I would like to see a better implementation of this, like to come off of the handle or something, just so you can get a firm grasp on the soldering iron itself. Changing the tip on it is pretty easy. There's one nut right here. You unscrew the nut, slide the sleeve off, and take the tip off, put a new one on, and tighten it back down. That's pretty straightforward. To remove the fume extractor, if you don't want it on there, there's a nut or a screw right here on the top that you can take off, and the fume extractor tube will just slide right off, and you can pull the suction, the silicone suction part off back here, but you'll still be left with this big hunk of hard plastic here. That's the part that makes it awkward to hold, and that won't come off. That's molded right into the handle of the soldering iron. Now here's the hot air gun for the Aoyue 968A+. This unit uses a diaphragm pump system instead of a fan, which makes it quieter to use while still maintaining a good airflow. And so the handle of the hot air gun is a lot slimmer than the fan ones that are on the market. It's Aoyue branded. It's a nice composite hard plastic material. It has a high temperature. It has strain relief here on the handle as well, like by the unit, with this spring that provides the cable not to get broken at the end here. To change the tips on the hot air gun, it's pretty simple. There's a nut right here that you unloosen to unloosen the neck of the hot air tip, and that just slides off. You slide a new one on and tighten it down. It's pretty easy and straightforward. Here's a stand that comes with the unit. It does have a little tray for your sponge here. Has a nice wide opening for your soldering iron to sit in, and it holds it nicely in place when you have it in there. It doesn't flop around a lot. As you can see, it is Aoyue branded. Go around to the back. There's a nice little feature down here in the back of the unit, the stand, that allows the soldering iron not to flip up whenever you have it in the holder. It'll keep it pointed in a downward direction so you don't have problems of it falling back out of the soldering stand. On this side, they've provided a little spindle here to hold your solder. I don't know if it's particularly useful. I don't use it very much, but it does keep your solder within reach, so you can take off as much as you need instead of having to worry about lugging around that whole spool of solder. Now, the good thing about this soldering iron holder is that it's made from really heavy gauge steel. It's a real heavy stand, and it doesn't slide around as much as some of the other stands that are on the market in this price range of soldering stations. Are made from like a plastic composite material, and when you go to put your soldering iron in them, they'll slide around your table, your bench top. And this one doesn't. It has 4 rubber feet on the bottom, and it's got a nice hefty weight to it. The build quality on it is superb. It doesn't slide around at all. Alright, now we're going to get into some of the functionality of the unit. And on top of the unit, there's a notice that you need to take note of whenever you first get your unit. There's a screw on the bottom that's marked in red wax that needs to be taken out before you use the unit, because it holds the diaphragm pump in place for shipping and keeps it from getting damaged. If you don't take that screw out, you could cause permanent damage to the pump. And also, whenever you turn it on, it's not going to give you the desired output that you want. It's going to be very noisy, have a lot of vibration, and your airflow is not going to be as good. So make sure you take that screw out before you even turn the unit on. And in the back, there's a main power switch. I'll switch that on, and you can see the Aoyue name scroll across the front. And it's got a nice display for the soldering iron. It's not fuzzy at all or nothing. It's a nice clear display, but the display on the hot air gun seems to be a different type. It's like diffused with a piece of plastic or something, and it doesn't look near as good as the soldering iron one. Now, this Aoyue unit uses a microprocessor to control all aspects of the unit, and it's a good feature to have because it allows you digital control over the temperature and the airflow adjustments. Plus, it lets you add a couple other features to the units that you may not find elsewhere, such as a sleep timer for your soldering iron. And what that does is allow you to set a specific amount of time that your soldering iron is going to stay on once you start it up, without having to. It'll automatically shut it off on its own. You won't have to manually turn it off every time. And another good thing is it allows you to integrate sensors into the units, such as the temperature sensors that tell you true temperature of the tips instead of a calculated temperature of what it should be at the setting that you have it at. It also allows for other protection circuitry, like high temperature protection, so if it gets too hot, the microprocessor will shut it down and stuff like that. Now, another feature that the Aoyue 968 gives you over a lot of the other lower end systems is the ability to calibrate the temperature of your soldering iron. They give you two different options to calibrate. You can calibrate it digitally or manually. And manually, you pop off this little rubber hole here, and there's a potentiometer behind there that you can use to calibrate the temperature of your soldering iron. And then there's another way described in the manual by using the buttons here that you can calibrate the temperature plus or minus 50 degrees to get it spot on. Now, adjustments to the soldering iron is really easy. You just turn the first switch on and your temperature that you have it set to will come up, and then it'll switch to the current temperature that the soldering iron is at. Now, to adjust the temperature, the only thing you have to do is turn this knob. And whenever you start turning the knob, it'll automatically go to the setting that you're setting it at. We'll turn it up to 350 because that's what I usually solder at for the most part. And then it'll switch back to the actual temperature that it's at. And you can also see if the heating element is heating up by this little red dot right there. When that red dot is on, the heating element is turned on, and you can see it turning on and off to maintain the temperature at the temperature you have it set at. Now, to set the sleep mode on the soldering iron, what you do is turn the soldering iron off, and this is a feature too. It'll tell you when you turn it off. If it's over 100 degrees Celsius, it'll say hot, and whenever the soldering iron tip goes down to below 100 degrees Celsius, it won't say hot anymore. It'll just say off. But to set the sleep mode, you hold with the soldering iron with all your switches off, you hold the heater increase button until that pops up. When that pops up, you can turn this dial. Now this time, that T stands for time, and the number stands for however many minutes you want the soldering iron to stay on before sleep mode is enabled. So we'll go ahead and set it to one minute, and then you just leave it alone and it'll get back out of sleep mode to save it to memory. Now that we have it set to 1 minute, we can turn our soldering iron on, and it'll climb to whatever temperature we have it set at. We'll set it at 350. And then after 1 minute, the sleep mode will kick in and turn the soldering iron off. We should be coming down off of the minute now, and it should be hitting into sleep mode soon. Now, one thing I did notice is whenever you're using the sleep mode on this system, there seems to be a lot of instability in the temperature of the soldering iron. And I have mine set to 350. That's what I've worked with it at for most of the last week. And whenever you're using the sleep mode on the soldering iron, it'll fluctuate anywhere from 340 to 380 degrees. It'll just jump around all the time. And as you can see now, the sleep mode has been enabled, so the soldering iron is cooling down. Now, to wake it back up out of sleep mode, all you have to do is move the temperature adjustment knob for the soldering iron, and it'll wake it back up out of sleep mode and take it right back to the temperature that you're setting it to again. Now, the sleep mode is still set to the same time that you set it at the first time. If you want a different time limit, you got to turn the soldering iron off and reset the sleep time. Now, the overshoot on wake up of the soldering iron is pretty significant. It'll shoot up to 380 degrees when I have it set to 350, and I'm going to show you that now. See, it starts off low, and then it'll climb and overshoot it like that, 380, and then it'll go back down to 350. And now it's stabled back out at 350. But if you continue to use it for, I was using a 10-minute time whenever I was actually using it for the sleep timer, and as you can see, it jumped up again without making any other adjustments to it. And so the temperature stability during sleep mode seems to be a lot worse than when it's not in sleep mode. Now to take the soldering iron back out of the sleep mode timer, all you got to do is shut the unit off, and it again say hot. Hold the temperature increase button for the hot air gun until the time comes back up again, and then turn it to 00. Let it save it to memory, and now the sleep timer is disabled. Now to use the fume extractor feature on this station, what you do is turn your soldering iron on, and then you turn the middle switch on, which is your smoke absorber. And as you can see, the ball will click all the way up to the top, and you'll hear a humming noise coming from the unit. And you can actually hear it. It produces like a high-pitched squeal when the fume extractor is turned on. Now we're going to move on to the hot air gun part of the unit. One thing to take note of though is that you cannot use the smoke absorber function of the unit, neither with the fume extractor attachment or the IC suction tool attachment, while you are using the SMT Rework hot air gun. Those two are completely independent, and you cannot use both of them at the same time. So if you want to use the hot air gun, you need to turn the smoke absorber off and then turn on the SMT Rework switch. Now operating the hot air gun is pretty straightforward. First you need to turn the SMT Rework switch on, and as you see, the display has two different temperatures for the hot air gun. The top one is the temperature that you have it set to. The bottom temperature is the temperature that the hot air gun is at the current moment. This too has indicator LEDs on the side to tell you when the heating element is on. Now to adjust the temperature for the hot air gun, there's a up, down, and reset button. The up button will take the temperature up, and you can adjust the temperature by 3 degrees with each button press, and you can hold it in to go through the temperatures faster. Down goes in 3-degree steps as well, and you can see the heating element was turned on, adjusting to the temperature that we have to set it at. Now to reset the system back to default settings as from the factory, you just press the reset button. It'll take everything back to default. Now here is the ball gauge for the airflow of the hot air gun. This one, unlike the smoke absorber function, you can adjust the airflow with the air control knob down here, and you can see it reflected in the ball gauge as you adjust it. Now one thing to keep in mind is when you use a smaller nozzle attachment for the hot air gun, you have to use a higher air setting, and this is due to the restriction that is imposed when you use a smaller nozzle, causing the heating element to overheat if you use a smaller or lower airflow, and significantly shortens the lifespan of the heating element in the hot air gun. Now the tips that are used on this hot air gun with the Aoyue stations is pretty industry standard. There is a wide range of nozzles that you can get for the station, and some of the other manufacturers in this price range tend to use a proprietary connection for their hot air gun accessories, so you can only buy their accessories, and it takes a special tool to put them on and take them off. With these ones, these are the same tips that that major manufacturers like Weller and Heiko use on their hot air guns. So you can buy different styles and sizes of nozzles and use them with this station with no problem. One thing that I don't really like about the hot air gun is the fact that there's no automatic shut-off feature when you place the hot air gun back into the holder. Now, on some other models in this price range, like the Xtronic that uses a brushless fan motor in the hot air gun, when you place it back into the holder on this unit, the hot air stays on, and as well the temperature does not change. It'll stay at whatever you have it at. So if you have something that's like plastic or flammable behind your unit, then the hot air gun will continue to blow onto those materials whenever the hot air gun's put back into the holder. You have to manually turn the switch off to turn off the hot air gun. Now once you do turn the switch off, it does have a cool down feature that will ramp the air to maximum coming out of the hot air gun, but turn the heating element off. That way it'll cool the heating element down faster and at a more steady rate to help prolong the life of the heating element. As you see, I just switched it off. The airflow went to maximum, and now the temperature is going down. You can no longer adjust the temperature here for the hot air gun, and the air will stay at maximum capacity until the temperature reaches 100 degrees Celsius, and then the air will turn off as well. Alright, it's time to get this review wrapped up with a conclusion. This Aoyue 968A Plus comes to market at $169.99 from SRA-Soldering.com, which is the authorized retailer for Aoyue in the United States. In this price bracket, there's not really any other SMT Rework Stations that offer this sort of functionality and versatility as well as build quality as this one does. This is a newer model from Aoyue and is very comparable to a lower end or Heiko branded rework station or the Xtronic 6040 rework stations. You really can't go wrong with it. Most of the other soldering SMT rework stations in this price range are really cheap plastic fill-in crap, really. They don't keep temperature very well. They don't feel good. They feel like they're going to break every time you're going to use them. And this one feels really good and sturdy. It's a real nice heavy duty construction. It doesn't feel cheap in any way. Some of the good things that you get is all the accessories. You get a bunch of different kinds and sizes of hot air tips as well as soldering iron tips. You get the soldering spool to hold your solder on the side of the soldering iron stand. You get the fume extractor and icy suction tool. I mean, all those things are functions that you don't see on other rework stations in this price bracket. Some other ones to name is the ability to put your soldering iron in sleep mode. That's something that you don't see. The fact that they offered a digital and manual calibration for your soldering iron temperature is very good. You don't see those even on some of the higher end soldering stations. The fact that this one is controlled by a microprocessor that has a bunch of different functionality is awesome, and the price that it comes to market at just makes it that much more of a good buy. You really can't go wrong with buying the Aoyue 968A Plus. So you can head on over to SRA-Soldering.com and check out what they have. Pick you up one of these stations. This station would be suitable for any electronics enthusiast, hobbyist, beginner, electronics student, anyone really who likes to tinker around at home with electronics. It does through-hole soldering, SMT soldering. You can reflow BGAs, large FPGAs. That's not a problem with this station. You can do pretty much anything that you need with it. It's a really good buy. Some of the negative things that I had about it was pretty much my own personal quirks, such as all the LEDs coming on when you turn the main power on, and the ball rattling in the air gauge. But really, that does not take away from the value of the unit at all, and it is more my personal opinion than anything. As far as the problem with overshooting during sleep mode, I will talk to Aoyue about that and have them look into it. I'm pretty sure it's just a software, firmware glitch or miscalculation from applying extra power at wake up to get the soldering iron back up to temperature, and it's just going overboard, because eventually it does end up settling down around the temperature you have it set at, and it does not take it long to do that. But the fact is that it still overshoots, and really shouldn't be a problem for people, because it doesn't stay there long, and it probably, the tip itself doesn't even actually get that hot, I wouldn't think, with the way that how fast it comes back down to temperature. I think it's just a calibration error in the code in the microprocessor. So that's going to wrap it up for the Aoyue 968A+. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Leave any questions or comments that you have below. Stay tuned. I have a teardown coming of this in a couple of days, as well as some other reviews coming up, like the fluke multimeter and oscilloscope, couple logic analyzers. All that's going to be coming up soon. Catch you guys next time.